All right. We are back. Sorry for the technical difficulties and issues that were being had on Facebook. I would like to say thank you guys for tuning in again. This is the FueOrCrutch podcast, season 3, episode 8. This is a special episode for me, getting to have the one and only Dr. Reverend Alex G come on. I will give you guys an opportunity to come in and get ready for a good show. So after the intro, you know how it goes. All right, like I said, I've got a very special guest, Dr. Reverend Alex G. How are you doing today?
Mr. Eubanks, I'm doing well. I'm really honored to be here on your podcast, man, and so I'm excited about this. I'm used to being in your seat asking the questions on my podcast, Black Like Me. So, but it's fun to be in this seat and not have to worry about carrying the show with all the right kinds of questions. So I'm relaxed tonight.
Well, it does kind of seem like it's coming full circle from being a kid and being around, and then actually being one of your first guests on your podcast with Mr. Cooper.
That's right,
When you
man.
did one about
Absolutely right.
many years ago. So yeah, I
You
definitely
got a great
remember
memory.
that.
Of course I do. Of course I do. That was a great episode. I wanted to have you on early in the evolution of my podcast. So I'm great to be here on your grateful to be here on yours.
All right, so yes, um, do a little icebreakers just to break the ice, start a little slow, and just bring everybody along as we go. So first icebreaker: French toast or pancakes?
Pancakes. I don't like sometimes French toast gets
Okay.
mushy inside, and I don't like that. So pancakes, but they can't be buckwheat. I like just a good old buttermilk grandmama kind of pancakes.
The fluffy joints.
Yes.
Sausage or bacon?
Bacon, crispy. Hey, I though I've got to say, Mr. Eubanks, I've tried I think what's it called?
Fair
Tennessee
enough.
Pride.
All right,
And
taking it a little step, just a little.
can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Mr. Eubanks?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
The Texas Pride, the hot spicy
Yep.
sauce. I'm starting to catch on to that. I like that, but I'm a bacon guy. Oops. Okay.
I don't know if it's me that just went out or you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you? I can see you and hear you. Can you both see and hear me?
I, yep, I can now.
Okay. All right. All right.
Go for it.
And so were you able to hear my last answer about bacon?
Green Bay Packers or the Chicago Bears?
Green Bay Packers.
No, I wasn't. If you
Oh,
want to go
I
ahead.
said. Oh no, that's okay. I'm
Good.
sorry, the
I know you got a lot of
technology.
family that.
I think there's a lag in here, but we're gonna get it together. I think there's a lag because of the internet, so I'm sorry about that. But Packers. Although I was born in Chicago, I lived in Madison the past 53 years. So I'm a Packers dude.
I was hoping so. I do know a lot of your family does tend to be toward the Chicago Bears side.
Yes, you're right. You are right.
All right, last one. LeBron James or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan. Jordan easily. Easily.
Yeah, the old heads usually say that.
That's right. That's right. I'm one of the old heads. I'm one of the old heads. They didn't have all this special, you know, accoutrements that people can use now to really boost health. I mean, I appreciate all that technological advancements and things people can do to stay healthy. But you think about the environment and what we knew when Jordan was in his heyday. And yeah, man, I just think what he did for the game and his abilities. But I got LeBron is impressive though. I'm not I'm not necessarily a LeBron hater or a basher. I just think for the time, what Jordan did with what he had was way more impressive.
Yeah, he did throw his Bulls teammates under the bus, cocaine Bulls or something along those lines. But we won't go into that. So I know
Wow.
you kind of hit on just so you touched on it just a little bit, but we can let go in a little more detail. So where are you from, and then where did you grow up?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois. My mom came to Madison on vacation in 1970 to just visit one of her childhood friends. Loved the lakes and all the greenery, and she saw the campus, and it captured her heart. She um, was and is an intellectual at her core, but never really lived it out. Dropped out of high school like her freshman year and worked like factory jobs, and took the entrance exam and was admitted to Wisconsin, UW Madison, and we've been here ever since. And I grew up on the south side of Madison, and went to elementary, middle school, high school there, and stayed in town to go to college in order to save money. And we both are from the south side, which is you can ride your bike down to campus in 15 minutes. So I lived at home, saved the expenses. But I was jealous of young people like you who went away to college, because I think that would have been a great opportunity. But I ended up staying in Madison and growing up right there.
Oh, we'll definitely get into that piece a little bit more too. But since you touched on it, talk about the South Side as a community and as a whole, and what it meant to you,
Sure.
and still means.
Definitely. When you're in the midst of something that really is about greatness and legacy, you don't always know it or feel it at the time. So I'm sure we look back at South Madison with a great deal of admiration, and we hold it in special regard. But what I loved about it is that the Black community was never very large, but our hearts and our ties and our pride were all very, very large. And I don't think, Jamal, that we knew how special the bond was between our families until 10, 20 years later, when Madison started growing and we'd go to, say, Juneteenth or the block party, and we look around and realize we don't know these people, because it used to be a day and time you did know everybody. You may not be friends with everybody, but you're like, oh, okay, that's Jamal. I knew his mom. His grandmother used to work in the office at my school. Or, I don't know your cousin. I may be older than your cousin Roddy. We called him Roddy. But we knew who he was because that was Angie's little brother. And so people knew each other in South Madison. So there was a sense of safety. You could, play on different streets. You could hang out at the South Madison Neighborhood Center or Penn Park. You could be involved with the Capitaliers or the Madison Scouts or the South Side Raiders, and not worry about people jumping you or getting at you and stuff like that. Doesn't mean everyone got along. So of course people have beefs. They like the same people, so they want to sort of flex. But it wasn't like you couldn't cross a certain street, you couldn't be in a certain neighborhood, because even if you and I weren't cool, our parents might play cards together or serve in church together. So we couldn't have some strong, ugly kind of beef going, because chances were our families knew each other and worked together, served together, worshiped together, hung out together. And so I feel like we had a special bond in the South Side of Madison where we felt a sense of care and protection, and we felt like people saw us and believed in us. It was really a great experience, and at the time, I don't think I really knew what we were living into.
No, and I, it's funny because I become the person that benefited from those relationships. I heard the stories about how my grandmother was connected to other people in the community, and how they all ended up looking after me, and me not knowing that there was a connection until getting older. It was like, yeah, she used to play cards with your grandmother, or they were playing at each other's houses when we were kids, and so that I feel like that sense of community and family on the South Side has stayed true through over the years. Although it does kind of seem like it's starting to fade a little bit now, but a lot of the people are moving away, um, just from the area, and I mean, I do feel like the gentrification is coming to the South Side and coming strong.
Coming strong.
So I also learning stories about the past. I want to ask and just see if it's true to what I probably have thought. But what was your dream career as a kid?
Oh wow. It's I didn't know what an entrepreneur was, but I wanted to be a businessman. The idea of going to work with a suit and a briefcase, having a desk. Now, I'm not even going to pretend like I dreamed of having a computer because that wasn't a thing unless you watched the Jetsons, but we didn't know what to call it. Um, I wanted to run businesses. That's what I wanted to do as a kid. I didn't fully know what that meant. I didn't know the responsibilities. It wasn't the marketing part of business. It wasn't the accounting part. I think it was the relationships and the networking. When I was a kid, brother Jamal, I was a paper boy, and now I think people, I don't know how they do. I think adults do it. You don't see kids riding on their bicycles with folded up newspapers like they used to on Beaver, Leave It to Beaver and stuff. But that's how it was when I was growing up. Like I actually had a big canvas sack. It said Madison newspapers or cap times on it. My mom showed me how to fold them up, put them in my pouch, ride them, go get them, ride on my bike, throw them, deliver them, take them up to Park Village, put them in the hallways and stuff. But we had to collect money from the readers, and then Madison newspapers would then say, "All right, because you picked up $50 worth of newspapers, you owe us $50." And hopefully, if you've done all your collections, you might have 75 or $80. So you make 30, and then you give them their 50. But man, that was running a small business, man. Jamal, I can remember Rocky Rococo's. It's a famous pizza establishment in Madison. I used to order those pizzas. I would have 18 and 20-year-old men delivering pizzas to my house on Fisher Street, and I'd be writing out a check. And I was a 13-year-old kid. I had my own checking account because Cap Times would open it at Park Bank. You do your collections, you deposit them at the bank, then you write a check out, for your inventory. That kind of stuff really helped me to think about business, think about overhead, think about collections, think about all of those things. And so that fascinated me, although it was merely a paper route, but how you had to function in it and how you had to manage it really appealed to me as a kid. I believe that it gave me skills to run the 4 organizations that I'm running now, the Fountain of Life Church, the Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership Development, my own podcast, and then the Center for Black Excellence in Culture. So I'm running 4 organizations, but I think I learned the skills of how you think about management when I was a paper boy.
Now that's interesting too, because I almost feel like I was probably the end of that paperboy route system.
Were you a
But of
paper boy?
course, being the generation that I am, we were a part of the kind of like I helped. So remember Jonathan Briscoe?
Sure.
So so Coach Briscoe, of course, our families were pretty close, and so when I would go stay the night at his house, his boys had the paper route. But instead of them or us getting on bikes to go with the rolled up newspapers and throwing them, he would take us in his truck and have the trunk open, and we would run out and throw them on the porch and jump back in the truck and take off, and we'd be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning doing it. And so like but I don't remember seeing anything like that afterwards, and I had to be elementary age at that point too.
Yes. It taught real good skills. And then I worked in fast food, which is hard work. I don't know that I learned business there, but I did watch and see people running these small businesses. I remember telling my mother at one point in time, my freshman year of college, I don't think I want to finish college. I want to work. I want to work in fast food. I want to work up to being a manager. I don't want to wait 4 years to make money. I want to make money now. So I think that's just always appealed to me. That's what I want to be, was a businessman and a leader.
Because I was definitely going with the mindset that you knew that you had a calling and a gift to be a pastor from day one. That is my honest belief, based on
and
stories that I've heard about y'all playing church.
First of all, young man, wasn't nobody playing. We was having church.
Right. Y'all were having church at such a young age. When most kids are playing school, y'all were having church.
We were, and what's really interesting was we would like share our faith, and we would have like these testimonies, and we'd have prayer time. So we felt like we were really having this worship experience. So it wasn't like, let's pretend I'm the deacon, let's pretend you the choir, let's pretend you the preacher, because it wasn't really like anybody was preaching, but we just felt like when we got together and we prayed for our families, we prayed for our community. And you're right, this is very strange, because for me, it didn't feel pastoral. It just felt like what a young person of faith did. But when I think about the people that were part of those prayer meetings, Jamal, I think about your aunt, Angie, who works in the central office now. And she was a principal, like one of the few Black principals who are a product of the school district that she now helps to lead. My sister became a social worker. David Smith, became a real well-known pastor and directed our South Madison neighborhood center. Val Quarles played Division I basketball and then became a school teacher. John Lucille became a firefighter. Man, a lot of us who came through, those childhood kind of church prayer experiences ended up doing really well in life. But no, I never thought that was going to lead to ministry. I studied economics and African American history in college. And so I knew I would probably preach. They call it an itinerant preacher, where you might get invitations to come and preach at youth conferences or big events around the country. But I thought I was going to end up working for Coca-Cola or Minute Maid or Xerox or some company in sales or marketing. But no. I never wanted to be a pastor.
But just think about that in general, two sides of it. Every name that you named is still someone that I know personally that's still very strong in their faith and in their belief and still very involved in the church.
And in this community, the people we named are doing all the things you said, and they're still serving in our community. You're right. You're absolutely right. And then those friends.
And I think that.
Oh, come on. I think there's a slight delay. So I don't want to appear to talk.
And it's just still rare, though, just to think about you guys at such a young age. At such a young age that you guys were like able to get together and be comfortable and confident in who you were and your beliefs, to come together as a peer group and have those kind of moments, sessions, prayers, just the whole nine. I think it's super fascinating to me.
And what I appreciate about this space, Brother Eubanks, is that I think it was in those moments that we got the encouragement, the sense of calling to pursue excellence, to pursue education, not necessarily ministry, but by being school teachers and social workers and firefighters. That was part of our service. That's part of our call. It wasn't to necessarily do it in the church, but I think that in those places we were motivated to really live out that sense of faith, which I think is really important. And so when people ask me about where I got my start, they really don't want to know about those gatherings, those prayer meetings. And our friends' parents did think we were playing because they couldn't imagine children being that serious about faith. That's what's really sad. Because, back in those days, you send your kids downstairs to Sunday school, you give them some crayons, and then, they try to make, white Jesus's hair brown instead of yellow. Like we color and have the little felt boards, and that's what kids did. We entertained kids. So I think when your grandmother, Val's grandmother, David's mother, Mr. Vo Smith, when they would hear us downstairs, like going in, like praying for real, like praising God for real, the assumption was we were mocking people because they could not imagine kids being that serious. And what's interesting is me, Laleda, David Smith are the three longest serving pastoral figures in this community. I don't care what ethnic background. I don't care whether it's Baha'i faith or Catholic or Muslim or Jehovah's Witness or Christian or Catholic. Of any ecumenical worship experience, we are the three longest serving ministry leaders in this city, and we were all in prayer meetings as a kid 50 years ago.
I truly believe that that's something that should be talked about more, because I'm positive not too many people know that story. And for me, it was always funny to me that when I found out. But it's something like that. I don't even, like you said, I still don't, to this day, I don't think anybody would believe you until you really went in and told the actual story. If you just said it on a flyby, they would laugh, chuckle as if you were joking, and really was. I think it would really shock and blow people's mind, on top of just, for me, it's that level of confidence in who you were to your core, or who you all were to your core, that were able to move in that way and not be deterred from it either, especially when people thought you guys were playing.
Sure. And the other, what might be a flip side of that, Brother Eubanks, is, we're talking about mid-70s. Black power and a sense of cultural identity didn't really kick up to Wisconsin that strong. I mean, it did. I shouldn't say that, because Milwaukee was considered the Selma of the North. So there are lots of innovative things that were happening there. But what I mean is, Alex Haley's roots hadn't come out yet. And so we didn't know that we were of African descent. We didn't have many teachers that looked like us. We were still an ethnic minority in this community. Yet something in our faith gave us a sense of confidence. Like you said 2 times in your remarks, you appreciate the fact that we were confident enough in who we were, but to be truthful, we were confident enough in who God was and what God was saying to us. And that's a real strange thing to say. And listen, we're not even talking about my friends giving me a hard time. We're talking about people who we respect saying, y'all going to hell down there playing with God. Like that was some of the grown up, like imagine like you being serious about something, like you trying to read, and rather than say, oh, maybe he's going to become an English teacher. Or you're pretending like, I don't know, you Perry Mason, like maybe you're gonna go to law school. Like we down there praying, and the response was, y'all going to hell down there playing with God. Because again, people could not imagine. And hey, Jamal, and I ain't gonna say who said that. I'm not gonna say who said that, because that ain't gonna come back on me. But I just think people really.
She just said, she just popped up. My mother. She just commented.
Miss Zalanda, how you doing, ma'am? Miss Zalanda, but I didn't say it. Miss Zalanda, but I did not say it. But I just think we got this bond together. I mean, David and I were just chatting today for a little bit. He and I just did a podcast episode because we both turned 60 this fall. But I mean, we made decisions to stay out of destructive behavior. We didn't get into drugs. Jamal, I was 27 years old when I had my first glass of wine. 20. That means I got married at 24, which means there was no alcohol at my wedding. Now, again, it wasn't like, no, I was around strict people. They said I couldn't do it. And I was trying to adhere to my leaders. But the point was, we made some very serious decisions that I think shaped us. And so I really respect you for making room to ask that, because not many people think that has anything to do with anything. That's really where my leadership was tested. People showed up like, okay, we're going to pray at Val's house. All right, we're going to pray at David's house. We're going to go pray at Angie's house. You remember your aunts and Miss Zalanda, remember this. You remember Diana. Oh, what's Diana and JoJo's last name? Diana JoJo. It'll come to me, JoJo and Diana. But I meet people now, and they remember, like at David Smith's 60th party, I went to his church for it. Tracy told me to be sure to come, and I saw Will, David's oldest brother, and he said, "Hey, Alex, I saw that video you made, and the only thing I regret is that you didn't say how your church started in my mom's basement, because Junior just
Horn,
assumed he just
Horn. David
assumed
and my mom commented
that's
Horn.
it. Horn, Diana Horn, and JoJo Horn. They because Diana Horn, Laleda, my sister, and Angie they're all first graders at Leopold together in '71. And some young lady named Riva, David or Zalanda might remember it. But anyway, my point is, I love the fact that you're asking the role that faith had in shaping us, giving us a sense of purpose and giving back to the community, because people don't ask leaders and influencers about the role that their faith has played in their leadership development. They just want to know about our mentors and how we crawled out of food stamps and melted cheese and government baloney and learned to go and get a college degree. No. There was something deep inside of us, because not all of us went to college. Not all of us went right away, but there was a deep sense of passion, man. So thank you. It stirred me talking about that. Sorry I took so long on that, but that's an important part of who I am.
And so kind of just to piggyback and not to labor too long with it, just thinking a step further as far as I feel like that's missing today. Like I feel like youth are struggling with that battle between being comfortable in their faith and going to church, because I don't know why. For some reason, it's not cool to go. I know I went through it personally when I was in high school, that it wasn't the the cool thing to do. And I know I struggled a little bit for a little while as far as like being comfortable with having a strong faith or belief system or just going. And I don't know why, but like I said, for you guys at such an early age to do it, know it, and be strong enough to carry it and continue to speaks volumes. So kudos to you guys. Thank you, David, for tuning in as well. So I do want to ask you, who were some influential people in your life just growing up?
Wow. I would say my mother and my grandmother, and I had an aunt. So I say my grandmother and aunt really, really invested in me in terms of faith. My mom always told me that I was smart. I could do anything I put my mind to it. And I misread that. I thought it meant I never had to show it. I thought it just meant I could just be smart inside, but it never had to show up on my aptitude test or on my grades. And so I sort of slid in. So I would say my mom. I had a really good third grade teacher here in Madison when I came here, who inspired me. And we still keep in touch, man. Let's see, I was 8 and I'm 60. I mean, so we've been friends for like 52 years. We still keep in touch. In fact, we're having lunch. He just wished me a happy birthday. My first grade teacher, Mrs. Alice E. Turner, she's in Chicago. She on Christmas Day, she's gonna be 104. And we still correspond. She started writing me when I moved to Madison in 1970. She sent me a Bible when she heard that I was a pastor. She's just kept up with me all these years. And so, but she told me or affirmed that I was going to be the president of the United States. Like she called me Alexander. So like people, in first grade, they didn't call me Alex. Like Alexander's a big name to carry even now at 60. But like, I remember I could still see her writing on the board because she asked me what I wanted to be. And I said, I want to be the president of the United States. And she wrote on the board, Alexander will become the president of the United States. There wasn't any snickering. It wasn't any laughing. And so I grew up just believing I could be those things if I wanted to. Then I had a number of people as I got older. My friend group really encouraged me a lot. So David, Val, Laleda, Derek, people, we really reinforced each other a lot in our dreams. I didn't have to dumb down in that group. I could be spiritual, but I could be smart. I could have dreams. I could want to go to college. So I was fortunate enough to have a friend group that really believed in me. But I would say early on, it was those folks. I had a few professors in college that took me to the side.
And that's funny because I was literally I recently watched a video of Dr. Juanza Kanjufu, and he was just talking about the importance and the power of the peer group, and how if they encourage you to be, that it's cool to be smart, then it is. But if it's you're in a peer group that is like encouraging, let's go skip or let's go do a bunch of other things that aren't necessarily getting you to the goals that you've created if you've created goals in the first place. And so I just feel like that is something that, again, is missing as well. I just feel like some of the stuff that made us who we were and allowed us to be strong in our beliefs of who we were kind of like fading. Community, positive peer groups that can lead to positive reminders, because we just think about peer pressure and we think of it from a negative standpoint. And I just see there's been a lot of things lately that's just been negative, and I just want to make sure that that the young folks, the youth that are around, get back to it. I firmly believe that it's important to have positive messages.
Yes, I agree. Hey, Pastor Smith, thank you for that comment. That's very kind. Um, uh, so Pastor David and I had a pastor who would drive from Chicago a couple times a month, along with my grandmother and a lot of older people. He was really my grandmother's pastor, and he was older than my grandmother. But he gave me leadership responsibilities, whether it was reading scripture or collecting offering, or even depositing it. My job would be to take that $6 offering up to Park Bank and deposit it. Um, I think one of the greatest opportunities for the church, and what has been historic for our church, for the Black church tradition, is that we develop leaders. Politicians, singers, Black actresses came out of the church because they had to do Easter speeches, and we taught people to get up before us, and we would clap. And Jamal, you're around, you'll see when our babies are dancing or giving speeches, we're there with our cameras and stuff. Say that speech, sing, baby, dance, baby. It was a place where people were really affirmed. But the fact that those leaders would come from Chicago twice a month, just so we would have a place to learn and grow, and that they gave us responsibilities, helped me to grow. So I would say Pastor R.L. Ford, Robert Lee Ford, gave me responsibility when I was 14 years old and taught me lessons that still guide and govern me to this day. And that was almost 50 years ago. The day one when our church started in May of 1977, I was in 8th grade at Lincoln. First day of the church, he made me a junior deacon. Because there were no men in our church, and in those days deacons were only men. But day one, what that meant was I set up the folding chairs in my living room so we could have church. But still, the fact that he gave me a title and referred to me, that helped me to really feel invested in and to feel seen. And as a guy who had grown up without my biological father, and I had a stepfather who just wasn't invested in my life. He had a lot of personal issues, a lot of personal demons. So he didn't have the time or energy to invest in me. Basically ignored my emotional needs. Made sure I had money for school and stuff. I mean, so I made sure that in those things were taken care of, but never engaged or connected emotionally. To have an older man put his hand on my shoulder and say, all right, this is what I need you to do. When the weather's bad, I'm not going to get on that highway in Chicago and drive up here. So I'm going to need you to do these 2 or 3 things. And I wanted to make him so proud that I did those things as a 14-year-old, as a 15-year-old. By the time I was 16, he was letting me preach.
So I want to switch gears just a little bit. So you talked about going off to college and going to UW, but I want to know, like, when you were, let's say, middle school, high school, what was your view of the importance of education compared to when you were younger and compared to what it is today? I know for me, it was a world apart.
It sure was. I think in middle school, I wasn't thinking about college. I was really naive in this regard. If you lived on the South Side, you went to either Lincoln or Leopold. I mean, Franklin or Leopold, or St. James if you were your Aunt Angie, in Uppity. You'd go to St. James Catholic school. You go to Lincoln or Cherokee. You go to Western Memorial. So I just assumed because your elementary, middle, and high schools were chosen, I just assumed your college was chosen. So I thought just like you went from Lincoln to West, you go to Wisconsin because it was a mile away from West. So I just assumed every city had a University of Wisconsin type university in it, and you went to the one in your city. So the idea that people went away to college was a foreign idea. I mean, I knew that there was a Princeton or a Yale and a Harvard, but there might be 8 or 10 of those, but everybody else just went to like the local university in their city. So I didn't really think about it much in middle school. In high school, I started thinking about it more in junior year when my friends, I ran track at West, but my friends I remember one friend, David will remember Tim Kimmel. He said, Alex, why don't I see you in any of my physics class? He says, aren't you going to college? It was the first time, Jamal, that I realized I was taking college prep classes. But what I mean is the classes I took counted towards college admission. I'm a former college recruiter. So I would see that kids were taking things like business math, computing, which really meant keyboarding. They were taking classes that would not count for credits that would make them admissible. It would let you graduate from Wisconsin high school, but it would not let you into the University of Wisconsin. I didn't realize until my friend asked me that question that I don't think I let anybody at school know that I was trying to prepare to go to college, although I had always had intentions on going. So it was something I thought I needed to do because I had been a paper boy and I like working. I only wanted to go to college to get a degree because I wanted a career. I wanted a job. College was just an ends to a mean, and to means, and those means was really just to work. But so I was not thinking about college life, which is why I lived at home. I didn't do fraternities. I didn't pledge until like the alumni chapter after I graduated. I just wanted to get that piece of paper in 4 years so that I could get a job and get a career and get on with the kind of life that I wanted to have. But I assumed, because my mother told me I was smart enough to go to college, I just didn't have the grade. I just didn't have the grades to go to the college I wanted to go to. I got in, but I didn't go to. I had trouble getting into Wisconsin, which is where I ended up going. But I knew that it was important. I told you when I tell you when I
which
really
I
understood
think
it.
is commendable because you had your why.
I had my what?
Go ahead.
No, please go. You go. You said I had my what?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I want to hear what you had to say.
Oh, I was saying I didn't really understand it until
Like
I got to the
you had
university. And after my first semester of college classes, I realized just how well Madison West had prepared me for the university. I just thought these are my classes. I'm going to school. It was faster because like you would take, you take, English for like a whole, like whatever you do in a whole year in high school, you do it in a semester at the
the
university.
semester.
But
Yeah.
I just found that it was not a hard transition at all. So I think it was when I got to college my freshman year that I realized how valuable my elementary, middle school, but particularly my high school preparation was for college. It really set me up. And I had some tough classes, but college per se was not hard for me because high school really prepared me.
That's funny because I just thinking about that, I feel like because West High School was that college prep, I feel like it almost set me up for failure because I went off to school well prepared. In that first semester, I didn't try and did really well. And I
Yes.
kind of flagged off. Like I didn't know how to study. I knew how to do homework, but I didn't know how to prepare for tests. And so after doing well that first semester, I kind of like slacked off because I was like, oh, this is easy. Like this is no different from college or high school. And at some point it did, the lack of study habits did start to catch up. But I also never imagined that piece of paper. You had that end goal in mind. Mine was to go to college, play college athletics, and you just think that that's a part of it. But if you don't really go intentionally on getting that piece of paper, there's a lot of individuals that go to college, have a lot of student loan debt and no paper to show for it as well.
Right. Right.
So what was your major?
Oh, it depends on when you're talking about. Um, First semester, I think it was
Oh, you
psychology because
changed
I
it
like,
multiple times too?
yeah, I like my psychology class. And then I thought comp sci, computer science was the big thing. People were saying you can make lots of money in computer science. So I thought about that. I was an education major. I thought, well, maybe I'll become a school teacher. I have a decent command of Spanish, so my Spanish professors tried to get me to major in Spanish. I tried to get into business school, but accounting 200 kicked my black behind. That 13-page midterm exam almost made me lose my mind, my faith, everything up in that classroom in commerce. And so I ended up majoring. I asked one of my friends at work. I used to work at Sears at Westtown. I said, "Can you still get into like working in business with an econ degree?" He said, "Yeah." So then I applied. I chose that as a major, but I took so many classes out of the Afro Am department like my biology credit requirement, my literature requirement. I took a couple of other requirements. Then I found a few classes that were cross-listed, like economics of Black America. And so my advisor said, do you know that you have enough credits to have a degree in African American history? So I ended up having a double major with econ and Afro-Am.
How long did it take you to graduate?
4 years.
That's commendable in itself. That is really now a rare feat to graduate in 4 years.
You know, my goal was to get out of there. Now what I'll say is, so that I'm telling the full truth, it was 4.5. But I came in fall of 81 and I graduated in December of 85. It was just like a few weeks after my 21st birthday. I had just turned, 22nd. I wanted to graduate at 21. Because I changed my majors, I couldn't graduate in 4 years, like cleanly, like in 8 semesters. And so I beat myself up a lot. Then I realized, man, I didn't meet the admissions requirement, but I met the graduation requirement. When I got there on campus, I had to get out quick because I wanted to start working. And it wasn't because I wanted to live a great big life as a baller. I felt more of my identity as a worker than I did as a student. And I also don't think like my friend David Smith wrote a note. He said, I'm being modest. I'm one of the most intelligent people he knows. I never thought that I was intelligent. I don't, because my grades never showed it. So school was not where I shined. And so, but work was. And so I wanted to get to work because I felt like I could be somebody at work. And I always felt mediocre. But it's funny, with all that being said, I still graduated, started in 81, graduated in 85. So it was 9 semesters, but I still got out 4 years later.
I think that's something that needs to be talked about and shared more as well. That you're doing amazing. You've gotten your doctorate and all that other stuff, but you've said something that kids struggle with for their own self, that your grades didn't show the level of intelligence that you really had. And how did that play any factor in any of your confidence or just how you carried yourself? I know I struggled with being comfortable and confident that I was smart enough.
Oh, definitely. Jamal, I didn't really know that I was smart until I graduated with my doctorate with honors. Like, coming out of West, I think I had like a 2.1. So my grade point,
I had a 2.2.
My but my grade point at Wisconsin, it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot higher than that, and but it was higher. So I performed better in high school. In college, than I did in high school, and of course, it was much, But when I finished my doctoral program, I was asked to give a lecture. And there were folks from all over the country, from Africa, from India, like people came from all over the world to this university to study transformational leadership from a global perspective. We had to spend time. We had to take field trips to China, to India, to South Africa to study world issues and and things that communities are facing. They asked me to lecture one day, and I said, "I'm a student. Why do you have me lecture?" They said, "Because you have more pastoral experience than any faculty on our staff. And so because no one knows as much as you do about the field, we want you to do the lecture on the complexities of the urban pastorate." And then when I started writing papers and getting A's on them, and then I was given a medallion for graduating with honors, I said, "You mean it took my becoming a doctoral student to realize I was smart? Because had I known that in high school, I would have taken those classes that my friend was asking me about that would have gotten me in college." So because my grades never showed my intelligence, I always struggled that I was going to be found out, that I wasn't smart, I couldn't handle it, that I couldn't hack it. And I think that I was so afraid that I put my head down and then just got out as fast as I could. And it actually prepared me for becoming an academic advisor, because I used to be an advisor in the School of Pharmacy, because my advisor didn't put my program together. I figured out the program. I said, "Oh, if I take this class, Afro-Am 210, it counts for Afro-Am and economics. I'm a major in both, so it counted towards both." I think I took 2 classes like that. I put my whole schedule together. My advisor didn't do crap. I put my counselor would have had me there for 6 years. I put my own program together and got out of there in 4 years.
That's funny because I say the same thing. Like mine was the exact same as far as I had a 2.2 graduating high school, 2.2 graduating undergrad. It took me a little longer to graduate, but I didn't realize that I was smart. I've got 2 master's degrees and didn't realize that I was smart until probably midway through the second one. Like I think my mom will definitely remember this that the first and I actually should have 3 master's degrees, but I ended up not taking 2 courses that kind of led to the writing of your thesis. And my mom was like, "It's literally only 2 classes. Why won't you do it?" And I literally told her, "For what? So I could be known as the dumbest man in America with a master's degree." And like, but that's just the way I viewed myself, even though I had done all the work in all the other classes, had a 3.9 when I finally graduated.
Wow.
But just because of how I viewed myself, kind of stunted me for so long. Like I was in my 30s at this point.
Wow. 2 master's degree.
So my
That's
favorite
amazing.
question that I love to ask is, yeah, it was a struggle, but it wasn't like it kind of came easy to me and naturally. But just the hard part was getting myself to believe it. So my favorite question to ask is, what's something you would tell your younger self knowing what you know today?
Man, that's a cool question. Inside our church services, like once a month, we have something that's called a congregational moment, and we'll interview people about what they do outside church. And so the last time it was me, because I just turned 60, and I was asked this question. Because I'm innovative and I've started, like all of these organizations I've started are still going on. Like they've got people working for them. I've got staff, I got team, I got people that are counting on me to take care of their family because they're on my payroll. But I would tell the younger me to dream bigger. I think I still struggle with dreaming growing up. So I would tell the younger version of me to don't be afraid to dream big. That others might say, well, that's not needed, or the teacher didn't ask for all of that. Put the blinders on, be polite to people, be respectful, but do not be afraid to dream big. I would also tell my younger self to buckle up, have some self-confidence, and don't downplay your abilities. Lean into them and don't make excuses. If you feel a call to lean into greatness, don't make excuses. I don't think I would tell myself to, reach out to my community, because I think that was in me. So I'm not trying to, so I'm not forgetting to say that. I just think that's who I was. I wanted to bring people along with me. I think I would tell the younger version of me to trust that nudge, that spiritual nudge inside my heart. There are things I'm doing right now, Jamal, like with the Center for Black Excellence in Culture, building a $36 million space for Black people to celebrate, have plays, celebrations, performances. There's 2 theaters, innovation space, leadership development space, remote working space, maker space, senior space, youth space. And no one else is doing anything like this in the region. But the nudge I got to do this came when I was a teenager. When I was about 16, I wouldn't say it's the full blueprint, but I certainly got the schematic diagram, not of the floor plan, but of the idea and the concept. I've been pursuing this, man, since 1979. And so I would tell the younger version of me, when you feel that inner light going off and you feel something that just gets your attention and it says, this is the way it's going to be, don't ignore it. Write it down so that when it happens, write it down so that when it happens, you can say, I knew this was going to happen. Jamal, when I was 13, 14, excuse me, I had a dream that our pastor, the one who come from Chicago, we went to walk in the woods. Now, our location, that we have a wooded area on our lot. But at the time, I was 14. Our church was my living room. It was 1708 Fisher Street. in this dream, I took the pastor into a wooded area and I said, Pastor, God showed me where our church is going to go. He's given me the vision of where it's going to go. And I want you to come and see it. So follow me. He followed me in the woods. I put a shovel in the ground and put my foot on it. You know that image, like when people are groundbreaking, they put the shovel in the ground and kind of put their foot on it to push it down. I did that and I woke up. And as a 14-year-old, I said, I'm supposed to build a church. I'm supposed to build a church that we're going to have one day. Well, it wasn't just buying a current church and then adding $1 million addition to it. It was creating Nehemiah. It was creating this center on that same property in the woods. We had to take down trees and stuff to do it. But I started getting glimpses of this at 14. So I would tell the younger version of me and the younger version of others. And in some ways, Jamal, because I'm much older, you are a younger version of me. I'm not saying I am you, but what I mean is you're still young enough so that I can't go back in time and talk to Alex, but I can talk to you right now. Do not ignore those early memories, those early visions, those early indications, those early messages. Do not forget them. There's a passage in scripture that says, don't forget the day of small beginnings. And I think because I hid those things in my heart, I had to have those prayer meetings. I had to learn business. I had to go to college. I had to do the things I did that taught me discipline and follow through and protocol. But I would tell myself, listen to that light, because those things I heard almost 50 years ago are governing my life and my work today. And it makes me emotional when I think about it, because all the things I've been through in life has not taken that away from me. So I also would say, no matter what you go through, don't lose that light. And there were people, people used to, mess with me about the church thing, but I think older people, including your mom, thought that I was nice. Like they never would hear me swearing. I never talked back to adults. My mother trained me well, so I think people always knew that I was a nice kind of clean cut kid, but I don't think people knew that God was giving me messages that would shape the community that we all lived in. And so I would say to my younger self, don't be afraid of adult size vision that comes to you, even though you're a kid. Grow into it, but do not let it go.
Nope. I love it. I love that. So talk more about what you've done in South Side of Madison, because I remember sharing and telling somebody, like, there's certain people that you can't necessarily come for in Madison, and if you're trying to do something on the South Side of Madison, Alex G is not one of the people that you can go at, just because he's from there, he grew up there, he built his church there, he does so many different things, and he's still there.
I love there. So I love that community.
And I know we know that the South Side of Madison has always been a special place, and there's no stronger community than the South Side of Madison has always been. And you literally have dealt with the entire spectrum of people that have gone on to get their doctorates, to people that are in prison, incarcerated, and I would never say that anybody's ever looked down on me or my friend that has gone to prison or my friend that has gone on to get their doctorate, because we all were the same. We all had nothing but love for each other, supported each other. And the ones that were making mistakes, we tried to talk them out of the mistakes. But the love for my brother or my sister that grew up on the South Side was still the love for my brother or sister.
Definitely. I would say part of what I've done is I've wanted to give back to make the community strong. For me, it's funny when I go in and I look at the mural at Madison College at the Goodman campus, and Jerry Jordan painted a beautiful mural. And I look at it and I think, oh, wait, I know these people, like these history makers, like I knew them. That these people put their hands on my shoulders and said, how you doing, young man? Stay in school. How's your family? You going to college? What you want to be? You a little preacher, aren't you? When I see the history, because once they start painting you on walls, your history, but to know those people, I feel that my work is to build on their work and to not let it fall to the ground. So I created Nehemiah 31 years ago because their social services, traditional social services, were not meeting the needs of Black kids. So I wanted a place where we could have Black social workers and family therapists and triage specialists. back in that time, you only had youth programs if you were in trouble. They weren't enrichment. So I created an elementary program. You were part of it when you were 8, 9 years old for elementary, because people weren't picking up Black
Ace.
elementary kids, ACE, and taking them to our facility and giving them a meal and lessons and helping them with their homework, so that they could just have family time when they went home. All of that was investing in leaders, Jamal. It was to do things because our hope was that people like you would grow up, go to college, come back and do FueOrCrutch or whatever your vision is right in this same community. The whole idea was that we would not leave the community and forget about South Madison. So everything that I do is really about building that. So Nehemiah has grown with about 20 to 25 full and part-time staff members. Our church has been growing. We live stream. It's multicultural. So people are Asian, Latino, Black, white, interracial, international. And so it's a beautiful complexion of what the kingdom looks like. I have a podcast that's in its 9th season. It's called Black Like Me, where I get to talk about my experiences, my dreams, my failures, my frustrations. I love having that space. And then the Center for Black Excellence in Culture. I'm tired of Black people leaving because there's no sense of culture here. I'm tired of people thinking that they got to go to Milwaukee or Chicago to have culture. Man, I got in 2 vans. I got only in one of them, but 2 vans of brothers went to hear, what's this guy's name? Damon. He won Comic View. He was out of Chicago. I can't think of Damon's last name. Damon Washington. Damon. But anyway, he was a host of Comic View. But we went to Beloit. We were like in an old bar, man. It looked like the old basement. I don't mean in disrespect, but like the old basement, like at Second Baptist, like old Mount Zion basement, not like the new Prue, but like the old, with the brown floors with asbestos in it. Man, we had plastic table covers. I was at the VIP table because we paid $50 for our tickets. And then Auntie and TT and them came walking in with pots of spaghetti and greens and yams because VIP was being cooked. The meal was being cooked down the block and they were bringing it in. The food was good. The comic was crazy. We was crying and rolling. But I said, we have to go to Beloit to hear a national Black comedian because Madison is not on their radar, but Beloit is. So I want space where we can have those kinds of comics, dances, plays, film festivals, lectures. I want the place to tell the history of the Black women and the Black men in Madison, Milwaukee, across the state who shaped Wisconsin for everyone, not just for the Black community, but for everyone. Our space, the Center for Black Excellence and Culture, will be a space where people can go and we will have those celebrations and those gatherings in that space to fortify that sense of community that you and I and your mom and others grew up with. We're going to find a way to bottle that and preserve it and share with the upcoming community. That space is going to help us to maintain what we felt in South Madison. But we want people from all over the community, all over the region, to come and just understand the impact that Black people have had.
Love it.
Your mom wrote Williams. I'm trying to think whose last name I was trying to figure out.
Damon
Williams. That's right.
Thank
you, Miss Yolanda. That's it. It was Damon Williams. That boy was so. Somebody told me I was a pastor. So every comedian messed with me in the audience, from the floor, and they said, "Wait, where's the pastor? Where's the pastor?" They walked up and oh yeah, they was crazy. They tried. Yeah, I'm glad they messed with me that night. But I want that level of comedian. I want that kind of celebration. I want people to say, "Oh man, yeah, I'm going up to the center because Damon Williams is going to be giving this, or there's going to be a lecture. Michelle Alexander is going to be here talking about something. There's going to be space for for innovation and how we work together to get our business ideas of investment, our business ideas invested in." So that's my thing. I've got to raise $36 million. We're only $3 million away from breaking ground on a debt-free facility. I've been able to raise $30 million to raise and identify $30 million in 2 years. In 2 years. So we just got $3 more million to go so we can break ground. And we're calling it The Center because you, your mom, your family would know the South Madison Neighborhood Center used to be called The Center. And I want to bring back this sense of gathering. So the Center for Black Excellence and Culture, if you go to our website, it's referred to as The Center. Southsiders know that I'm catching the hint. I'm saying, yeah, it has this longer name, but that's its government name, the Center for Black Excellence and Culture. But its community name, its moniker is The Center.
I love it. Now, that it takes it back home. It's nostalgic. So I kind of want, I know we ran over a little bit on time just because of, having some technical difficulties. I do want to wrap up with this final kind of like question discussion. And if anybody has questions in the chat, please feel free to ask while we're still here. But I wanted to dive into this a little bit. What is your view on the word potential?
Ooh, the root of that word is potent, which means really powerful. When you think of something being potent, it means that you only need a little bit. But when you dissolve it in water, or you put it in food, when it has this mixture, it can bring about this robust experience, whether it's a taste or smell or something that you see or that you visualize. And so potential to me means that it's smaller than the talk, it's smaller than the smoke screen. It's that piece in us, that little part in us, like a seed. I see a seed as potential, that if you hold it in your hand, it'll dry up and do nothing. Put it in the ground, put a little water on it, give it a little sunshine, pull up the weeds around it. It'll die, it'll go in the ground, it'll find moisture, and then it'll find the energy to break up through the ground and towards the sun and the rain to get its own nutrients. But it starts with the seed. It starts with this little bit of potential. So I would say that it is the seemingly insignificant part of us that, when valued, becomes the most obvious thing about us. And I heard Miles Monroe said that some of the greatest potential in our world is in the cemetery, because people took that potential to the grave with them because they did not realize it, they didn't act upon it, and they didn't know how to nurture it. And so I think that it is powerful, but I think most of us think that only those that do great things have it. No, you see those who do great things do something with their potential, but they're not the only ones who have it. We all have potential, but we all need to learn how to develop it.
And I think that what you said is more powerful than you believe or even realize to me, because one of the things for me that I feel the word is extremely dangerous by itself, because potential, to me, when somebody tells, oh man, you've got potential, but nobody ever goes into any detail of what that is or what it looks like or what it means to that person based on what they've seen. And what I've started to kind of piece together is somebody sees something in you that is you do naturally with no effort, no thought. It just comes to you easily. But you could take it to a whole nother level if ever, like you said, nurtured, watered, put in soil, given the sun that it needs to grow and flourish. But that time, like, because so many people don't share what it is that they've seen from you, the person that is being told that they have potential doesn't understand it. And it sounds like you said, potential has a time limit. And if you don't develop it or cater to it or feed into it, the potential runs out. And like you said, there's so much potential in the graveyard because they took it with them and never lived it or lived up to the potential. And so that's why I feel like by itself the word is extremely dangerous. But when somebody gives that guidance, that word, or helps shape what it means to them so they can understand what it is, then it becomes one of the probably most powerful words. So it's either extremely dangerous or extremely powerful when given to the right person with the right information to go along with
it. And Brother Eubanks, I would also say that potential is not aspirational. It's not like you could have potential. You have it. The question is, will you develop it? Will you nurture it? And I also think that when there's a readiness for that potential to be activated, people will appear in your lives. People will show up. It may not be the person you want. It might not have been my father. It might have not been my stepfather, but there have been people that have stepped into my life. They've opened up checkbooks and they've written ideas. They're like, come on, let's go take a look around the world. I want to send you to Africa. I want to send you to Asia. I want you to go. I want to send you to Europe. Like these places I went, people sent me. Like people paid for me to go and have these experiences because they saw the potential. And by acting on it, by putting me in positions to learn, I then began to take my potential seriously and giving it room to grow. But potential is not the same as saying you could be somebody someday. Potential is saying you are someone. Will you live into who that person is? Or you let that ability die within you? Potential is power. It is energy. And either it's going to choke you or it's going to drive you. You're going to spend yourself chasing it.
Sounds FueOrCrutch.
Yes, or you're going to run from it. But potential is real.
Yep. And it also reminds me of, one of your younger fraternity brothers saying they're born gifted. It's in you already.
It's there. It's there.
So yes, I super appreciate you taking time to do this with me and for me. Like I said, it's amazing to have this come full circle. I being on yours, you being on mine, and then just all the words of wisdom that you've shared with me over the years and the prayers that you've prayed for me that we have physically seen come true as well. So
Yes, we have.
I definitely appreciate that, and I want to thank everybody for coming and being a part of my show. And until next time, please stay on for a second, Alex, once we get this done.